Agency life is certainly, in the market, is certainly a very competitive one. And we've also got in-housing. So there is a lot of that. But I think what we do is that we partner well. So I would say that while we're in a competitive market, we really do believe that working cross-functionally within our clients' groups, as well as the other agencies in the ecosystem or the internal creative team, is of vital importance.
Welcome to Business Ninjas, brought to you by WriteForMe, where you'll hear from business leaders who are out there growing their business and slaying it every day. Learn from the masters. Let's get started.
Hey everybody, welcome back for another episode of Business Ninjas. I'm here today with Gina Michnowicz. She's the CEO and Chief Creative Officer at the Craftsman agency. Gina, welcome to the show.
Thank you so much. I'm glad to be here.
Yeah, excited to have you. So Gina, tell me a little bit about yourself.
So I am the CEO and Chief Creative Officer, as you said, of the Craftsman. I am a mom and an entrepreneur and sort of a left brain, right brain person.
Love it. Love it. So tell me more about the Craftsman agency.
So we are an agency that creates magical moments. We really focus on just telling this immersive story and really trying to figure out that story that has not been told in an unusual format. So sometimes it will be a game, or sometimes we'll work with a creator, or it'll be, an activation with art or something like that.
Yeah. Talk to me more about it.
So a really great example, and this is, although it's been a while, we worked on Murder on the Orient Express with Godiva and Fox, and we created a 10-foot chocolate train. So we had some other social content, but we needed to be able to really kind of check off a lot of boxes for both Godiva as well as Fox, and they were not really 100% aligned. So we had to come up with something that was really going to work across the board. So the idea was to do a life-size chocolate train, which would have been so heavy, and I'm so glad we did not do that. So we ended up doing a 10-foot chocolate train that was 3,000 chocolate bars, Godiva chocolate bars, and it was absolutely beautiful. And it's one of those things that we show as an example still, even though it's been a while, because art does stand the test of time. And honestly, there have been so many people that have been like, I walked by that at St. Pancras Station. And so it's memorable, it's magical, and it really hit all of the business objectives as well. Yeah, so it's a great example.
Yeah. So when did you first become interested in kind of this in the space?
So I've always, I think, been a creative at heart. So I've always, ever since I was a child, I did a lot of stories and, a lot of those kinds of things. And I actually started my career in HR, which is not all that creative. So I think I found myself sort of wanting more, and I got recruited from HR to marketing to move within the company. And it was kind of like a light bulb went off, and that was just really I was like, okay, this is what I'm meant to do. I had 5 really experienced people working for me, so I was able to be a good people manager, but I was like learning on the fly and going with my gut, and thankfully did not make any huge mistakes, made small mistakes here and there, but really trial by fire.
Yeah.
And then, kind of I've been really in marketing, either in a brand or on agency side, for really the bulk of my career now at this point, but we don't talk about the number of years.
Never. So what are some of the problems and challenges that your clients have before they start working with the Craftsman agency? Is it needing help with rebranding? Is it campaigns? Talk to me a little bit about that.
It really is across the board. So we do get brought in to, from the brand consultancy side to think about the strategy, maybe the narrative on the storyline. A lot of our clients are, have been around for a number of years. A lot of them are very large global businesses. And so they're going to have a brand already, but maybe they have a product that is being incubated and launched and needs to have a different kind of brand than the overall brand, but still button up. We get brought in a lot of times for those, as well as a brand refresh. That happens, that happens quite a bit, or even at the brand campaign level. So a lot of times, and what we find is that you really, when you're thinking about a campaign, you need to think about all the way from brand to demand, or brand to direct response, awareness to direct response. And so having that sort of like strategic bent as well as creative, and figuring out what is going to be the campaign idea and theme that is going to have legs to take you across that full, kind of customer journey and funnel. That is, that's, I think, what we're brought in for a lot of times. Sometimes we're brought in to do what I like to call kind of gap work, is that it's either a gap strategy, like a challenge that someone is struggling with, and really they've tried a couple of things and it hasn't worked. Or, sometimes we just have a big lofty challenge, like we need to have X amount of pipeline, or we need to sell, this much, or we need this many butts and seats from a theatrical perspective, or, we, need to push this much product. And so we'll get sort of that challenge, and then we'll come back with a set of ideas to tell them, tell our client how we think it would be best achieved.
Yeah, brilliant, brilliant. So you talked a little bit about creating magical moments, which I love. Talk to me a little bit more about, how you're able to stand out from your competition, because it sounds like, you're tackling huge projects. So talk to me about that.
Yes. So I would say, agency life is certainly, in the market, is certainly a very competitive one. And we've also got in-housing. So there is a lot of that. But I think what we do is that we partner well. So these big campaigns, we'll work with publicity for a Disney campaign with, the PR agency, as well as the publicity team, and as well as our client. And that really is for the good of the campaign. So I would say that while we're in a competitive market, we really do believe that working cross-functionally within our clients' groups, as well as the other agencies in the ecosystem or the internal creative team, is of vital importance. Not all agencies feel that way. They might say it, but we find ourselves a lot of times where, you're on a call and you're like, oh, this agency, it's going to be like, just mine, kind of like the birds in Finding Dory, the seagulls. But it's honestly, there's enough piece of the pie, and we can always figure out who does what best, and we check our ego at the door. So
yeah. Talk to me a little bit about how you've been able to grow the business in your time there, because you're obviously very successful. So talk to me about it.
Relationships. I mean, honestly, this is a relationship business, and that's why I never understand why agency people talk badly about their clients. And there are some clients that are a-holes, and honestly, we don't work with jerks. So if you're going to be mean to our team, and you're not going to you're going to treat us like a vendor, and you're going to kind of whip us, that isn't how we work. We work as a partnership, and we collaborate. And I think that we have a lot of clients that really appreciate that and find that to be, kind of their, a lot of times people will say we are the bright spot on their calendar. And we have so many team members that, just do that. And that's part of the magic too, is making it a magical moment for our clients, so that we are that team that they just feel like is there with them. And that is really so important. So it just has to be relationships. Now, there are other ways to grow, and certainly, we just submitted for the first time for an award. And we, so that was last year for our Corella campaign. Yeah. And we got a silver Clio, and that was like we all were like, oh my God, that's awesome.
Yeah.
Yeah. So we were, I think that over time helps when you have some award-winning work, for sure. But I think that really relationships, probably.
Yeah, yeah. What would you say the biggest misconception in your industry would be, whether agency life or art? Talk to me a little bit about that.
I think that um I think there's a couple of, I think that first of all, from a culture perspective and a company structure perspective, that we need to be working 80 hours a week to get this creative product done. And that is going to be the best way to get it done. And we're going to all grind ourselves out. Honestly, I used to just be such a workaholic. I have to think of another term for it. Like when I work hard. Like
Yeah.
I'm very focused and I'm very efficient. But I stopped giving myself sort of this room to work until 10 o'clock at night, to work every single weekend for, 10 to 12 hours, because I wasn't bringing the best creative work. So I think sometimes the best creative work is really, I think there's this misconception that you have to work those hours to get
Yeah.
some of the best work. And I actually am vehemently opposed to that. I think that mental health and taking care of your body makes our work better. Having flexibility in your schedule so that you're working at the optimal time is also, we have to have cross collaboration, but some
Mhm.
people need to work later and that's when they work best.
Mhm.
Um, I think the other misconception is that you cannot collaborate in a remote environment. That was, when we went into COVID, everyone was like, oh my God, we're creatives. We can't collaborate. No, that's not true. We've always been remote and we've always been able to bring really, really cool ideas. Now, it is valuable to be in person for sure. You cannot replace seeing, kind of the whites of everybody's eyes, right?
Yeah.
So like, but it is, you can be very effective in a remote environment too.
Yeah, yeah, that's really interesting. Great points. And I think you're spot on with that. People need the space to be creative and you can't force creativity. So letting people be creative with their time, creative with their own lives, like that gives them the opportunity to open up and be their best selves.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, yeah. So if people want to learn more about the Craftsman Agency, where can they go to find out more information and kind of learn more?
Um, so the craftsmanagency.com is probably the best place. That's where we have a lot of work and, um, you know, that's probably the best place to see it. We're also, on LinkedIn and Instagram,
Yeah.
um, which, is another place to see us as well, for sure.
Fantastic. So, Gina, as we kind of wrap up this episode, is there anything that you want to leave our listeners with that we didn't necessarily hit on that you want to make sure we're able to tell them about today?
I mean, I think we really covered a lot of things, but I think, really the moral of the story is if you have a challenge and something and you need ideas around it, we are a great team to tap, really.
Yeah, absolutely. Both, I'm sure for advice and for creative things, as well. Just
Sure.
a great agency.
Thank you. Appreciate it.
Great. Well, Gina, this has been a great conversation. I appreciate you sharing the magical moments that the Craftsman Agency is able to bring. And I really appreciate you being on Business Ninjas today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you so much.